It's Friday, August 7th, 2020, and I want to welcome you back to the Nerd National Communication Center. Let's talk some EV news. EV cells up, ICE cells down. Battery capacity up, EV costs down. And we'll see what Elon's thinking about the cyber beast.
So first off on the EV news is electric car sales have almost doubled in June 2020 from June 2019, at least in Europe. So Inside EVs has some numbers on this, and you can kind of see it all in the chart. Here's the 2020 sales of electric vehicles, and in June we almost had 100,000 sales versus 2019 in red. It was about 45,000 sales. So it was up 95% for EV sales. 93,000 sales is a 95% growth. Now, ICE cars, internal combustion engines, the overall market share due to COVID and everything, sales were down 24%. So non-electric cars, market share down, sales down, electric cars going up. So the market share in Europe has improved 8.2%, including a battery electric vehicle. So this is plug-in hybrid and battery electric vehicles, which is about 1 in every 12 cars. So the market is growing. Lots of manufacturers are serious about this electric thing. And of course, Tesla is selling vigorously in Europe. So following up on that, I have an article at Electrotech talking about Elon Musk seeing strong demand through the pandemic. So Tesla is still selling their capacity. Demand is not an issue, and that the demand to buy their cars is outpacing supply. In a nutshell, that's what this article says. Of course, as usual, I'll have all the links to all the articles in the description so you can read the full article. Following up on what Elon Musk has to say over at Inside EVs, Elon's talking about electric cars are too expensive. They are more expensive. The total cost of ownership of an electric vehicle is getting very close to parity with internal combustion engine vehicles, just because there's so much less maintenance and a lot less things to go wrong with electric vehicles. But that premium to buy a car, Tesla is looking at, we need to make a smaller, lower cost car to get the price point below their quote cheapest version of the Model 3, which is $35,000, or just the standard range or the quote short range version of the Model 3, $3,700. So as battery production is getting better and improving, it's going to help break that magical $100 per kilowatt hour for the batteries and bring electric vehicles onto parity with ICE vehicles. So speaking of battery costs, over at Tesla Roddy, the economics minister said that Tesla, the Tesla Gigafactory in Berlin, is going to be building a completely new battery that is 20% better. Now you may ask, why do I say 20% better? Well, I've seen that in several articles on the EV websites, but like for instance, if I go over to Electrotech, there's an article from July 30th, Tesla batteries to get a 20% density increase, according to Panasonic. So 20% density increase means you can make a battery that has this existing footprint but has 20% more capacity, or you can shrink the size of the battery to keep the same range, but now the car weighs less and it costs less to make the battery, which is bringing in that affordability. So that's the trend we're going to see improving, and of course in the long term, one of the many battery projects that are working on what they call solid state batteries that don't have a liquid in them. They're safer, promising to have more density. If any of these new technologies pan out, then electric cars are going to get to the point where they cost less than internal combustion engine vehicles. It's just a matter of time. The battery cost and capacity curve has been improving year after year after year. If it just continues at the same rate, it'll be 4 or 5 years and the cars will be on par, will not need subsidies, they will stand on their own, and from there it will just get cheaper. Tesla is still talking about a 1,000,000-mile battery, and it is suspected that they're going to talk about this at their September 22nd Battery Day event, which has been delayed. It's going to be very interesting to see if they come out with this, quote, 1,000,000-mile battery, because then you have an electric motors and drivetrain that's designed to go hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of miles, and the battery that can go hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of miles. It means you won't need to be buying a car every 5 years or even every 10 years. It'll be much cheaper just to keep the car, and you won't be sitting there going, my infotainment system isn't any good, because what Tesla does, of course, is they send over-the-air updates, and other car manufacturers are looking at doing the same thing. But that means we won't be buying as many cars because they'll be lasting longer, which is a good thing, because I'd rather be spending my money on other things than buying cars. I have a Chevrolet Bolt. I like its features. I get 250 miles range. I plan on keeping it for another 7.5 years. It's 2.5 years old. I've got no plans to trade it in after 4 years. Now, we will trade in our second car, our gasoline car, for an electric vehicle in a few years when it's time. But trading your cars off every 2 years is just not cost effective, in my opinion. I choose to spend my money otherwise. So batteries getting more efficient will bring the cost down and get us to that magical range, that 300-mile range that I think is going to be where the range will tend to top out on electric vehicles, because with DC fast charging over 100 kilowatts, you'll be able to easily travel with that kind of range. So speaking of cheaper electric cars, Kandi, a Chinese company, is looking at selling an electric vehicle in the United States for $13,000 after the tax credit. This car, it's not a 250-mile range car, and who knows how well it's built. But if you're looking at a car that has a 100-mile range, a 17.5 kilowatt hour battery pack, this was basically the first generation Nissan Leaf that was costing over $30,000 before the tax credit. So we can see how far we've come towards affordability. So I don't know anything about this car. I don't know if it's worth buying or not, but I just saw the price and the article, and since I was talking about costs coming down on electric vehicles, I just thought I'd mention this article from Electrotech. All right, moving on, over at Inside EVs, we've got the Tesla Vehicle Safety Report for the second quarter of 2020, and it shows minor improvements. Now, if you haven't looked at this before, let's look at the safety on 3 different levels. One is the safety of Tesla cars without autopilot and without active safety features. So that each accident is on average every 1.56 million miles. Tesla car without autopilot, but with active safety features such as blind spot detection, automatic braking, etc., has an accident one every 2.2 million miles. With autopilot engaged, you're looking at one accident every 4.5 million miles. So I'm not sure if Tesla will ever completely pull off auto drive, but it's already twice as safe as not having it. Time will tell. Auto drive, autopilot is an extremely complex problem, and it looks like Tesla has redesigned it from the ground up at least once or twice. So you can see, though, that there are improvements in safety. If I was buying a Tesla now, I would buy it without autopilot. It comes with the autopilot hardware. If it comes to fruition, then I could step up and pay my money and get the autopilot. But I'd rather not invest for it now when it's not there yet. But it is safer. Moving on, GM continues to move forward with their electric program. They're teaming up with EVgo to add more DC fast chargers throughout the nation. I think where we'll be in a few years is how the charging density is getting to be in California. So companies like GM, and I'm sure Ford, and of course VW with Electrify America, building a charging network throughout the United States, we're getting higher and higher density so that it will be more like a gas station experience. There are enough DC fast chargers now to travel long distance in the state of Texas. I've done it. I've gone to the hill country beyond San Antonio several times. I've gone to Dallas. You can stop every 100, 150 miles, do a DC fast charge while you're eating lunch and continue on your way. It's just the density is not like gas pumps. So I just jumped into www.plugshare.com and I deselected all the different charger types except for the CCS combo charger that all electric cars use, except for the Nissan Leaf, which uses CHAdeMO, and Tesla, which uses a supercharger. The Tesla supercharger network is well built out. I'll show you that in a little bit. But if I live in the Houston area, so you can see the fast chargers. See, here's one in Columbus about 100 miles away from my house on the way to San Antonio. And then we have some in Seguin. We have some in San Antonio. And at that point, I'm close enough to make it to Concan, where I go to my vacation rental property. If I'm heading up towards Dallas, you can see good clusters of DC fast chargers. We got Huntsville, Madisonville. When I go to Dallas, I just stop in Madisonville and charge once, and I don't need to charge again until I get to my destination. Now, if you look at this density right here, let's look at where the density is the highest, which is California. Look at this in California. You've got multiple charging stations. So you have multiple choices on where to charge, which you don't currently have that in Texas or some other states. Now, if I switch over to supercharger and turn off CCS, you can see Tesla's got enough of a network that you can travel coast to coast, no problem. Here, let me zoom back out. They built their network out so you can go coast to coast and travel pretty much anywhere when you're traveling. Now remember, you don't need a fast charger in your home city because you charge at home. But CCS is catching up in density. And I mean, where California is, I think other states will be in 3 years. So we're getting to that critical mass of charging stations. All right, moving on to Inside EVs, let's talk about the Cyber Beast. So Elon Musk says it's highly likely that they'll come out with a smaller Cybertruck, one that would actually fit in your garage. In other words, one that they could sell in Europe, because I think the Cybertruck is so big that they're going to have trouble selling it in Europe. I'm just not sure what's going to happen with the Cybertruck. It is so polarizing. But there are people that are just gnawing at the bit to get this vehicle, and there's other people that just look at it and go, what was he thinking? Now, Elon says if the truck is a flop, they can build something that looks much more conventional. So there's going to be a lot of competition in the pickup truck space for electric vehicles within a few years. So we will see. Ran across this article just a couple days ago, and I've seen it on multiple websites talking about Tesla's windshield wiper controls have been ruled illegal in Germany, because on the Model 3 and the Model Y, there is no control on the steering wheel stalk to turn on the windshield wipers or to change the speed of the windshield wipers. You either have to go to the touch screen or you have to use voice commands. Now, what Tesla's done to say you don't need this is the cameras detect how hard it's raining and adjust your windshield wiper speed accordingly, automatically. But it still needs to be tweaked, and it's illegal in Germany to use an electronic touchscreen device when you're driving. So some of this might just be Germany wanting to help VW and Audi and Porsche on their electric vehicles. But, I have a touchscreen on my Chevrolet Bolt, and trying to use that touchscreen while you're driving is not safe. It's like trying to use your phone. You're taking your eyes off the road. And this was caused because a gentleman got into a wreck trying to adjust his windshield wipers, and he appealed it higher and higher, trying to say he wasn't doing anything illegal. But it ended up going the other way, saying, no, the way that Tesla runs its windshield wipers in the Model 3, Model Y, and you can correct me if you got a Model S or a Model X, I believe that has windshield wiper controls on the steering wheel stalk, but not the 3 and the Y. This was kind of stunning. I mean, Tesla's going to have to do something here. So, because using a touchscreen for everything is a pain. It's taking your eyes off the road. So, thought I'd throw this one in. It was interesting. All right, I thought I'd finish up here with an article from Green Car Reports, just saying that, because I've mentioned Tesla about 50 times in this Green Car Report, this news, EV news. GM is moving forward with its electric vehicle plans. They're going to have the electric Hummer. They're going to have electric SUVs. They're going to have a new version of the Bolt next year. It's going to continue to progress on their plans. They're not abandoning it, even though they've lost money in their business this year. So I don't want to give all the love just to Tesla, because there are other companies out there and they are adjusting and innovating. They may be behind Tesla, I think they are, but how far behind? It's good to have competition. That's what Elon Musk said he was after all along, was not to dominate the car market, but to transform the car market to a sustainable model where we're using electricity instead of fossil fuels. And all the major car makers, to one degree or another, are moving towards electric vehicles. So that's all I got for you on this EV news. Have a great weekend. If you like these news roundups, please subscribe and hit the bell. Thanks a lot.